Since February 2022, the Russian army has been forced to develop effective warfare tactics and new weapons almost in non-stop mode. The application of these measures was because the top Russian military leadership faced an unprecedented level of resistance in Ukraine. Since February 2022, NATO countries, led by the United States, began supplying Ukraine not only with a huge amount of all kinds of Western weapons, but also with high-ranking NATO and Pentagon officers. These NATO and Pentagon high-ranking officers were showing Ukrainians the principle of operation of Western weapons, and developed a plan of offensive actions along the entire front line. However, as time has shown, the Russian army quickly managed to fully adjust to the current situation. The Russians have developed not only effective tactics of warfare, which made it possible to effectively counter and destroy NATO forces in Ukraine, but also to create new types of weapons that made it possible to completely neutralize Western tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, drones, electronic warfare systems, and multiple launch rocket systems. So, while the world was watching the next shots of destroyed German Leopard tanks, it became known that the Russian army had developed a new tactic for destroying Western multiple launch rocket systems in Ukraine. Starting from December 28, with the help of this latest tactic, the Russian army managed to destroy 3 US Himars systems and 2 Ukrainian Olga multiple missile launchers. The Russians destroyed these systems in the area of the settlements of Glubokoi, in the Kharkiv region, and Seladovo, in the DPR. Moreover, fresh video footage has also appeared on the internet, where the Russian multiple launch rocket system Tornado-S destroys US Himars with the help of cluster munitions. Studying these frames, Indian military experts from the edition Eurasian Times confirmed that the Russians have developed a fairly effective tactic to destroy US Himars multiple launch rocket systems in Ukraine. According to them, the destruction of US Himars systems has always been a difficult and sometimes impossible task, since these multiple launch rocket systems worked on the principle of shot and scout. The fact is that the Himars systems were firing high-precision guided missiles, INC, and SatNav, at Russian positions from a distance of 50-60 kilometers behind the line of contact, and immediately were fleeing the place where the missiles were fired. And it is precisely because of this that Russian kamikaze drones and artillery could not destroy these multiple launch rocket systems. Even the Russian Tornado systems, which can destroy targets at a distance of up to 300 kilometers, very often did not have time to react to the attacks of the Himars systems. But, how did the Russians manage to solve this problem? How did the Russians learn to destroy the Himars before this multiple launch rocket system launched off all its missiles and ran away? The fact is that the Russian military has begun to use the latest special radars in the zone of a special military operation that instantly determines the exact location of the enemy's multiple launch rocket systems by the plume of a fired missile. Moreover, the Russian army also has other systems that allow it to accurately determine the exact location of US Himars systems and transmit their coordinates to Russian artillerymen and pilots of fighter airplanes. In particular, these are the Kupol satellite group, Orion drones, and the reconnaissance aircraft, Tu-14R. Russian satellites of the Kupol group are constantly over Ukraine and can instantly detect enemy multiple launch rocket systems on the trail of jet missiles left behind. Russian Orion drones are capable of scanning the enemy's huge territories while being out of reach of air defense systems. The reconnaissance aircraft Tu-14R is equipped with a powerful high-resolution optical electronic system, as well as a new generation radar with an active phased array antenna, allowing the Russian army to determine the exact location of even small-sized enemy objects in fairly vast territories. According to Indian military experts, it was these unsurpassed Russian systems, combined with new tactics of their use, that completely neutralized the US Himars systems in Ukraine. Moreover, they are confident that in 2024, the armed forces of Ukraine will be forced to limit the use of the remaining Himars systems, due to the high risk of their destruction.